everyone to another episode of Consciousness Road Trip, my podcast. And today I'm joined by three people, well, 2.5, but definitely 3 and more. Miss Tiffani Brennan, Mr. Wynne-Jones, and Mr. Silas. Hey guys.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Woohoo! You're on the podcast, that's what. That's exciting. So I have the 3 of them in my room today in Budapest, Hungary, and I really wanted to, I work and create with you guys all around the world in various ways. And it blows me away, to be honest, to watch like the family that you guys are creating and the relationship you guys create, the businesses that you guys create. So I don't really know where this is going to go, but I would love to just look at that with you guys and anything you can share with people to have more of that. I guess maybe we could even start with like how you're not anything like a traditional family.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I want to say thank you for having us because I love talking to you and I love working with you, and I'm very grateful to be here. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I would say maybe a lot of people would look at us as, I guess, quite a normal family. Like the family sort of structure or whatever, but we are quite different. Like we both travel the world doing like different things, facilitating classes, working on classes with Access, and then we also have Silas with us, and he sometimes will come with me, sometimes he'll go with Tiff, and then sometimes we're all together as well. But it is,
and sometimes we're trying to find who else we can palm him off onto, but it doesn't work very well.
But yeah, so I guess it is quite different, and I think it's changed a lot for us as well, especially quite recently, and more stepping into, I guess, that place of like actually still being able to choose for you in a family structure and create your life and include your family in that.
Cool. And maybe that's like also where we can start, like how you guys, so to do a little bit of a intro to this, if you've not listened to this podcast before, Access Consciousness is what we do, in a way, what we be. Like, we all use the tools, we work on classes, we have businesses facilitating access ourselves. And the cool thing about Access is they have tools for everything, right? So maybe like even looking a little bit at how the tools have contributed to creating that. But before we go there, could we look quickly? So Silas just turned 4 years old. So
3 years old.
Okay, sorry.
You're
it's
wrong.
Really 4. So like 4.
No, it's 3.
Okay. So going back that many years.
Yeah.
Like, was this the goal? Like, was this the goal in a way, or the target when you chose a family, or was there any of this in your world at the time? And what I mean by this is the fact that it was possible to basically have a global business traveling the world and a child.
Yeah, I mean, I think neither of us have ever really been very sort of traditional in the sense of like a relationship even. But in saying that, we tried to do a normal relationship for a while, and we can talk a little bit more about that as well. But,
Cool.
I think both of us are very adventurous, very excitable. We always want like 100 different things going on at all times. And if we don't have that, we get a bit like, oh my God, what's wrong? And kind of, probably not that much fun for each other to be around as well. But yeah, I mean, I never really want to stop. And, I always knew that if we were going to have a kid, or if I was going to have a kid, maybe I'd have one. I was like, maybe one. But I know that it's not going to stop me or change the way that I kind of show up in the world. And, I mean, the tools of Access really help with that, because it is kind of easy to get kind of bogged down in, how you're supposed to be as a parent, how you're supposed to be as a mother. And when I look at, when I look at the idea that I'm a mother, I'm like, what? I'm not a mother. I just have this little dude who like follows me around and hangs out with me, and I kind of see him as a person, not as a baby or a boy or even my son, which is, I guess, kind of a very different way looking at having a kid.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, just being able to do what we do, I'm like super grateful. And,
Very cool.
you know, I guess it's just the willingness to keep choosing and knowing that nothing can stop you, but also including everything and everyone around you in your choices as well, which is, again, can be a juggle sometimes, but with the tools that we have available, anything's possible. Yeah.
And what about for you, Saul, being a dad? And I mean, you facilitate Return of the Gentleman classes, you do foundations, and obviously a bunch of intro classes. You're an X-Men facilitator. Like, how is that? How does it all flow for you?
I mean, you know, I think it's been something where, again, it's like just continually adding more, like as and when I was able to. But I guess like for me as well, I traveled a lot when I was young. Like my mum, I lived like just with my mum, and she would take me wherever like she would go, and so that was something I was quite used to. And I think I always kind of had the idea that I would like to be a dad and have a kid in my life, and so that was definitely something that I saw as a future. Tiff just pointed at me and said my fault.
It's his fault.
But like looking at, like, you know, we've talked about different tools of access, like your point of view creating your reality, right? So most people, like when they start to plan, whether how much people plan families or when they just happen, but I guess there's a certain point of view people start to take on about what that looks like. And talking to both of you, your points of view seem to have always been that it didn't have to follow, quote unquote, that traditional path. Like,
it's not to say that those things didn't come up, though. I mean, I can talk for myself, but I think maybe for both of us that, you know, people's projections.
Oh, yeah.
Which, if you're not being aware of that stuff, if you're not even aware of how much projection is going on, people's points of view into your world, and you don't have the tools of access, for example, to not only be aware of it, but to deal with that and not become the effect of it, then you've got, you know, parents and in-laws and, you know, whatever, relations and friends who all start to go, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And, you know, obviously when we chose to pack up and leave Australia and really just tour the world for a while, it's such a gift to be really aware of other people's projections and not let those affect your choices, and have the tools to go, okay, so if I choose this, what will it create for my future, for our future, for the future of the world? And choose what you get is actually going to create more expansion with all of that.
Yeah, and I think that's something very different, I guess, with family, because I mean, so many of us are like taught to go along with what our family chooses or not go outside of that, you know, like like we've had many situations as well recently where it's been like, are we just choosing this to kind of go along with, you know, what we're supposed to do here? Or it's like, what are we actually choosing? What do you desire to choose? What do I desire to choose? And it's like also including Silas in that of like, okay, do you want to come with Dad now, or do you want to go with Mum for a bit? And it's like, you know, you going to come to Brazil, or are you going to go to Italy, or, you know? So it's like, being willing to make those different choices, choosing for you, and including like that knowing that those choices include your family.
And him especially, like even him being in the room now, and I get a sense that, you know, it's funny how people would look at a child 3 or 4 years old and be you know, they just eat off you, and like they're there to kind of grow up, but how much like he actually probably steers this ship way more than anyone else. You know, you were saying just before, Tiff, that you were like, can you retell what you said? You were walking down the street just before and what he said to you.
He just cracks me up so much. So we're walking down the street and he said, "You're the best mama in the world," and he said, "It's because you know everything, and that's why I chose you." And then he said, "And I saw a picture of Daddy, and that's why I chose him." And I was like, "Oh, so you chose him because he was so good looking?" And he went, "Yeah, and because he had so many nice dresses."
from the mouth of babes, as they say. Like,
Yes.
and where like that's such a
Have you got something you'd like to add to that, Silas?
It's me. I don't know how.
Do you like your life traveling around the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. What's your favourite country so far? Do you have a favourite?
Australia.
I
Australia.
love it too. Yeah.
Because you get to see animals.
But the world's beautiful and big, right? Everywhere you go, do you get a little bit excited?
Yeah.
Cool. Do you hope Mum and Dad keep choosing more of that?
Yeah.
Did you
Me
learn
too.
any new languages yet?
No, but I can say this. Ciao.
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 Italiano.
And I can say ciao a week.
Oh, now you're just basically Italian. You just ciao here and ciao there.
But sometimes I say hi, hi.
You've got English and Italian. See?
Yeah.
How does it get any better than that?
Wait, English? Why is hi English?
Yeah, do you remember the French one?
No.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
It reminds me actually of like one time I can't remember what I was doing, but Silas was there and I was like, I was on a call or something and I was like, go away, and Simone was like, what if you included Silas in what you were creating? And like that really changed something for me in terms of like actually also receiving like the contribution that he is and that he desires to be.
Yeah.
Who's my
Yeah.
master?
Like
Who's
you-
gonna be my master?
Like you said,
Hey, can
he's
I have-
also
I want
he's
orange.
also a big driving force in
I
what we are
want
choosing
some
and creating
orange.
and
I want some
contributing a lot to
orange.
it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think like because I don't have children and like how much if you're willing to receive from them, like they actually contribute way more than like because like I said, most people see children as children. Like they just have this role to kind of be there until they grow up and go and make their own way in the world. But what are they actually really, and a child like him, like he's so like it's almost like he's so a part of everything that you guys choose, and yeah, it's kind of hard to put into words, but
And I
being
think-
around him, it's very clear.
Yeah, and I mean, we're so lucky because we have, so many amazing friends around the world that we play with and work with. And, we're in this fancy... We were in this fancy restaurant the other day in Vienna,
Yeah.
and we were with all adults, and everyone was including him
Yeah.
so beautifully.
Yeah.
And he's not the kind of kid that runs around and creates havoc.
Yeah.
He just kind of blends in with people, but the people also include him.
Yeah.
So they were having conversations about dinosaurs and playing with him, but in a way that worked for everyone.
he does sometimes run around and cause havoc.
Well, he can, but in
Also looking at when he does choose that, is that because he also is perceiving... I was actually at lunch with Gary Douglas the other day and Simone and, again, Access Consciousness, he was the founder of Access like 30 years ago, and we were having lunch and I was talking about Silas, and he was saying like he will create in people... I can't remember exactly what he said, but maybe he didn't even say this, but this is definitely what I got from him, was like he will create in people what they need to receive in a way. Like he's going to bring up shit in people's world. Like he's that sort of kid. He's so aware of what's going on, and the shit might be good shit or bad shit. Like it's not to say, but if people are there and they need their buttons to be pushed, like what if that was part of it as well? Like what if, because people would be, if you're in a fancy restaurant and your kid's running around, but what if that was actually him facilitating people to have more allowance?
Yes, and there's been times in classes, for example, that we've been facilitating or whatever, where he's, for example, gone up and like kind of whacked someone on the back of the head.
Yeah.
And for me, instead of reacting,
Yeah.
because I have the access tools,
Yeah.
I ask a question
Yeah.
first, just in my own world.
Yeah.
And then I get, okay, so this is something to be left, basically.
Yep.
And as a result, the person had this awareness and
Yep.
this facilitation from him hitting her in the back of back of the head, which is it's a very different way of parenting.
Yep.
Most parents would be like, don't do
Control,
that. You stop that. That's
Yep.
not cool.
Yep.
Which sometimes is required.
Yep.
But if you're actually aware that, kids are infinite beings, and maybe they know a whole lot more than most people allow them to, allow themselves to think that they know,
Yep.
then, what facilitation and what contribution can they be in a much bigger way than,
Yep.
most
But just
people
being
know.
that incident or whatever.
Yeah.
Like what actually is that creating for people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty...
I don't know if I'm pretty
Interesting
sure
and
I would
different.
tell him to stop it if he was hitting people in the back of the head, but yeah, I mean, whatever it is. So, yeah.
And that's like what's so cool about you guys as well too though. Like there's nowhere where, well, I mean maybe there is, maybe this is actually a question, not a statement, but when it comes to parenting him as well, like, and this is kind of just turned into the Silas show, which is fine. Like with that as well, is there a place where you guys need to have congruency with it, or is it somewhere where you...
Between us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's been an interesting game as well. I mean, again, you have a kid and all of a sudden there's this new person in every area of your life. And you're like, okay, so how do we deal with this? And, yeah, I mean, we've definitely had, Saul's been really great with me in just going, you know what, you do what you know is required and what you're aware of, and I'll do what I know of.
Yep.
And we've gotten to a space where we have a lot of allowance for each other in doing the things with Silas the way we want to.
Cool.
I think you start to see a lot of like where you basically think that the way that you were brought up is right and correct, and so you function from that place even if it doesn't work, and then you start to see, this doesn't work and it's not creating something greater. And so like in that I would say as well, like I've also learnt a lot from the way that Tiff is with Silas, of different ways of being, and watching other parents as well, where just not that your way is like the only way and the highway, but it's like you can include different things that create more ease, and the kids will show you something different as well.
Yeah. And like, because what comes to mind, if I was in that situation and I had a kid, I'd probably want to do the opposite of everything that I would be like, okay, everywhere but that's still creating that polarity as well. Like also like to come back around a bit with this, like using the tools of access. And because we've talked about creating your businesses, creating travel, creating a family, but in a way, like they're all very similar, right? Like the same tools can be kind of applied to everything. Because if you're willing to wake up every day and ask questions and not base it on what yesterday or what your childhood was or what, like, and really come from this place of, starting afresh and being that place that it's the same basically for everything. Yeah.
And I think, you talking about doing, for example, the opposite of what you experienced or whatever. I mean, there's doing that from a place of reaction and needing to prove that your way is better than anything your parents ever did, or the places that they ruined you, or whatever it was. But I think the beauty in that too is that we do learn what works and what doesn't work from the way that maybe we were brought up or we were treated, and then you get to play with something different. And some of those things I've played with and thought, my way is going to be amazing and brilliant, and then you kind of realize, okay, this is actually the reality of it, is that, for example, Silas is his own being beyond, like, he just doesn't come in fresh and is this like magical perfect
you
prince.
Can start from scratch. I'm gonna mold you in my graven image.
It's like, the kid has choice.
Yeah.
Even from the moment that they come in, and it's definitely keeps you on your toes. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a good playground to use the tools.
Yeah.
He's taught me a lot about allowance too.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you really like to have a really clean house and you have a kid,
get over it.
Exactly. You just gotta relax and be like, okay,
Or,
my
you
house
know,
is just messy.
Get a
now.
house with a dungeon or something.
Or make lots of money and employ a cleaner that just basically follows him
him around and tidies
Cleans
up
up
all the
everything.
stuff.
But just quickly, one thing that came up when you were talking then as well, like looking at, like, you know, using parenting as an example, and it's such a cool example because it's really something for me, and again, I'm not a parent, but it seems to, like, when people used kids as an example, it makes things really clear for me, because as well, that thing of like trying to parent like your parents did or like they didn't, in order to say that didn't work, I'm going to do the opposite, there's still somewhere you need to go into that place of being it or doing it in order to reject it, right? Like it's this place where, if I'm going to do it the opposite of that, you've got to know and be in that place of what that is before you can create the opposite. So it takes you actually out of any form of choice and only into a place of finding either like a reference point of something or you need to do it in order to figure out how not to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember Brennan talking about it, my brother, and with his son when he was first in the world, and saying like, he's like, I'm never going to parent like my parents, but in order to do that, he had to start parenting like them to figure out how not to. So like this thing as well, and that for me, it's such a cool display and example of the tools because...
This doesn't look like a meeting. It just looks like some people talking to
We're talking into this magic thing that's recording everything we say. Yeah, like that place where it's like that with everything. Like, and that's what I love about Access and these tools as well, is like wherever you find it, apply it to everything.
Yeah, and we
I would like to pet one of those animals.
I think we're going to go see them tomorrow.
Yeah, after one more sleep.
One more sleep.
And yeah, we talk a lot with Access about like that choice creates awareness, and I get that a lot of that is like finding whatever that choice is that it, and what it creates, and it's like being willing to choose things that you haven't chosen before that you might not have the awareness of. And then that expands your, like, that expands the choices that you have available, like, in a situation, whether it's with your relationship, whether it's with your business, whether it's with your kids. Just, like, and once you have the awareness of what a choice creates, it's like, no one else can take that away from you, and you have it.
Yeah, you never lose it.
Yeah.
It's, like, invaluable. And even those choices where, like, to talk about choice super quickly as well is, like, so true, that place where, you know, a choice may have resulted in you losing a bunch of money or someone hating you or whatever that was, but that awareness that you got out of that, you've got it forever then. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, whatever you guys do, don't go and start facilitating parenting classes because that would probably be bad. Yes, my love.
Can I say something?
You can.
Are we going to go on a ferry boat?
I hope so. Do you want to do that?
No.
You don't?
No, because a sea crocodile will bite a piece of the bone, and it will come in and eat all of the people.
Is that true though?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
We can catch a tram, but I think a boat would be more fun.
No, we're doing a train.
Okay, fair enough. You're the boss
Choice.
after all.
Ow!
Cool. So let's talk a little bit for a second just about where people can find you guys. So you both have facilitation businesses.
We
and
do.
Choosing more of that, hopefully.
Yes, definitely.
So where do people find you?
You can find me at Wynne-Jones.com or also accessconsciousness.com/Wynne-Jones.
Cool. And I'll put the URLs in the thing. Cool. Someone will.
Yeah.
And what about you, Tiff?
Yeah, you can find me on the Access website, accessconsciousness.com. I also have a website, but it needs a little attention. But
Tweak.
yeah,
Cool.
TiffaniBrennan.com
Awesome.
as well. So
Cool.
yay! And around the world in lots of classes everywhere.
Yeah, what would it take for you guys to choose an Access class too and come along and meet you guys and your beautiful son in person?
Of course, we'd love to see you.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. I enjoy so much when we cross paths. with the three of you. So I'm truly grateful for having you in my life and everything you guys are choosing, and for what you contribute to this world. It's a better place for sure having you here. So.
Aw, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah, and yeah, thanks for having this conversation with us.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Are you gonna say bye, Silas?
Bye.